forward to talk a little bit about image analysis as a service from the Finnish Advanced Microscope Node following the excellent talks that we've heard so far. And I would like to begin with a brief introduction to Euro-BioImaging Finland, which we are a part of, as I am also the director of this organization. So Euro-BioImaging Finland joins together two nodes, our Finnish Advanced Microscopy Node and Finnish Biomedical Imaging Node, and offers basically, I counted about 56 of the different Euro-BioImaging technologies, including, of course, image analysis. Together, we have imaging facilities from 7 universities and 3 university hospitals. And we try to offer the whole sort of a range of imaging technologies, as we like to say, from atoms to anatomy. And this is then coordinated by Turku Bioimaging here in the southwest Finland. And our aim is to support the entire imaging workflow. So from sample preparation and marker preparation to image acquisition, in particular, maybe in 3D. And then, of course, importantly for today's topic, the data analysis, including then data management and also newer AI-based tools. We have about over 2,000 users annually, over 500 publications, and training is a big part of our activity. So not counting the one-on-one training that happens at the imaging instruments, we have about 3,000 trained in different events each year. And I want to highlight this also because it touches upon today's topic quite importantly. So Finland has a new concept. They are called lighthouses. So these are so-called forerunner infrastructures that are having a broad societal impact and that are sort of forerunners in everything that they do. There's only 6 of them, and we were selected as one of these. So that's for us a great honor by the Research Council of Finland. And that brings also with it about 28 million euros of funding for the next 5 years that we then target to the 2 nodes, and in particular under the theme AI-based combination of biological and biomedical imaging. So again, image analysis and image analysis services are an important part of this. But then going forward to our node and towards the image analysis activities, here are just some pictures from last year. Our node and our topic of today, which is the image data services, is led by Turku Bioimaging, our organization over here. Our scope of operations is very broad. Importantly, we coordinate the whole national imaging scene. We also run a research and a master's degree program in imaging and so on. But very importantly, then, we are the only facility in Finland at the moment who offers image analysis as a standalone service. Many of the other facilities offer it as connected to the imaging workflow otherwise, but for us, it is standalone. So our aim is that whatever the imaging source, whether it's biological, biomedical imaging, or anything else, just like a regular photo or so, we can take that image data and help the users then get whatever they need to get out of it to reach their final outcome. If you want to reach us, this email address here is maybe the easiest way to reach our entire team. And we try to cover then the image analysis and the data management aspect of the work in each case as they are needed, with the help then of our collaborators. So these are just some of the services that we cover. The broad scope is very broad. Typically, we start with a free consultation where we look at the project, and we often like and hope that the scientist would come to us already sort of before they get started or before they have acquired all the data, as we heard before. Also today, it's a useful thing usually. Then we do a lot of scientific collaborations, but also paid full service of any type, including training service if needed, both traditional and AI approaches. And then importantly, we try to support the entire imaging workflow, which is one advantage that's easy for us to do, as we also coordinate the entire Euro-BioImaging Finland. We work also both with academic and industrial and private sector users. And this, our principle very strongly is that we want to be able to support any image data, wherever it comes from, any imaging source, any video source. And in the next few slides, I have a few examples that I won't go into detail more, but just to give an overview of some of the things that we have been doing recently that also illustrate how varied the spectrum easily becomes. And as we a little bit heard from Jean-Yves also, it is a lot of fun when we get to work with so many different things. Every day is different. So here are some examples in the top left corner, just regular AI-based cancer cell or nucleus recognition. Then we've done a project to map autoradiography images to the brain atlas. You see here a video indicating tracking of rat pups from just regular videos. At the lower end, there are examples of virus monitoring, virus motion tracking, and viral infection tracking, several different viral diseases. This image here in the middle on the left is actually a very interesting one. That is where we use the tools of image analysis to analyze radio frequency recordings from ship engine rooms that are part of studies where people try to see how wireless communications work in those environments and how they can be shielded from external effects. And most of these projects just come to us from various sources. Here is then another example. We actually have several projects working with malaria in different ways. EM-based here in the top left corner, looking at malaria parasites, for instance, in the blood and so on. And then at the lower part, there's an example of a larger data from the sort of digital pathology field. So here I put the rough image size there, where we then handle the analysis here itself is quite simple, co-localization type analysis and basic segmentation, but after some cell type identification and then identifying regions around them. So the scope is really quite broad, even though our main focus is on let's say, the health sector and the digital pathology world and biological imaging, then all these other examples are also there. Then something that we also try to do whenever we have a chance, and this is something where we're working on a paper right now. So this is an example where scientists had developed here at the local university a pretty cool analysis tool. And they contacted us to see if we can help make it available to the community. So then we created a graphical user interface for the tool and a hosting service for it, so that we can run this as an online service that can be used on your phone or on your desktop. In this particular case, this is about identification of different mouse epithelial cell types and their developmental stages. So we try to offer also this type of services to bridge sort of this bottleneck of where research groups develop something cool, but then it never really becomes broadly available because it requires their own special expertise. But then a very important area of applications for us, and this is also important in the sense that I mentioned earlier that we were selected as this lighthouse at the national level. And one requirement for such a lighthouse is that, for instance, in imaging, we could not work only in the health sector or biomedical domain. Otherwise, you don't get to become a lighthouse. So you need to have a broader impact on society. And this is actually, to a large extent, happening through our image analysis services. So we work with, excuse me, I'm still recovering from a pretty bad flu, so my voice isn't the best. So we recently received, for instance, European regional development funding to develop digital agriculture. This is basically just drone images. We have also done the same for marine environments. Here on the right side, you see an example, for instance, where we use some AI tools to recognize invasive plant species in the Baltic Sea. And this is a growing sector. We collaborate with numerous farms and farming companies here in the region, especially ones that are linked to the sea and excess nutrients flow into the sea. We even work with things like monitoring water flows in ditches going to the sea. So it's a very broad spectrum of applications, and this links then very closely to also some of these farming related developments and projects that Euro-BioImaging has, where we hope to be also working together more in the future. That is related to also mobile imaging devices. So this is, and then industry collaboration that I should mention. And the overall in Euro-BioImaging Finland, we've seen a growth rate of about 88% in industry projects over the last 4 years. And this is very strongly happening here in the image analysis field as well. We are currently working with some of the major drug development companies, for instance, here. Unfortunately, I can't really say many more details about these projects, but anyway. We are also working on, for instance, joint data management, image data management development with some of the companies, bigger companies here in Finland and in Europe on a joint funding proposal at the moment. So that's an important part of the work that actually brings me then to the sort of last point I wanted to make, which is about data management, that this is obviously an important part of the work. So we have Omero, Open Microscopy Environment servers that most of you are probably familiar with here locally. But then very importantly, we have a Finnish IT Center for Science that some of you might be familiar with. It houses, for instance, Europe's most powerful supercomputer. And they offer then a lot of computing resources, storage, and service hosting services that for academic use in most cases are actually completely free of charge. So this is an enormously useful service that we then utilize, and it's part of Elixir infrastructure and Elixir Finland, that we then utilize to offer these services needed. For instance, in the big data that I showed a slide of on the previous page, we use these services because otherwise we couldn't really handle it. And Junel Solis from my team here at Turku Bioimaging will actually give a talk around these topics in these same community days later in the week on Thursday. So then you will hear some more details about some of the work that we do. And very importantly, we are very active in this different data management working. Okay, there was someone else trying to hijack the audio for a moment. Yeah, so we are very active in these different data management working groups. So we have one here in the sort of Euro-BioImaging Finland context, and then going out from that all the way to global bioimaging. And these we actually find very useful in learning how to develop and handle data management, because it's a complex field, I would say, about as complex as the analysis itself. Sometimes it feels like the analysis part is easier than the data management. And our aim is, of course, then that we will try to focus more on going ahead is to get more and more of this data also published in FAIR services that Asta and others have been talking about also earlier today. Finally, I would like to just advertise a little bit that we have our every second year, we have a Bioimage Informatics Finland, so our Finnish network in image analysis and related matters, our symposium. And this year, it's a slightly bigger event taking place here in the Finnish archipelago, and the registration is still open. And this is, even though it's for Finland, it's open also for international participants, and it's also supported by Bridging Nordic Microscopy Imaging, so Nordic countries, and we have already registrations from a number of different countries. So if you're interested, have a look and maybe join. And here are some relevant informations about our activities. As mentioned, this image data at bioimaging.fi is a good way to contact us. Most of the projects that we do, we try to also run as Euro-BioImaging projects whenever suitable, but we will help with that. There's a website and social media, and we also have a newsletter that comes out a few times a year that you can join from here. With that, I would like to thank, here are still the relevant websites, all of the ones for us, and I would like to thank all of you, as well as then our really great team here at Turku Bioimaging. That's our local team. And then, of course, all our users, from whom the sample images and data that I also showed comes from, but also the Euro-BioImaging Finland team, and importantly, the Euro-BioImaging ERIC team that does a really fantastic job in supporting us, and in no small part is the reason why we are also in Finland called Euro-BioImaging Finland and not something other Finland. And our main funding source is the Research Council of Finland. Thank you very much.